Hello and welcome to another episode of the Average Joe Football Show. I'm your host, Joe Fair. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of your second cousin's favorite football podcast.
Yeah.
Your second
It is
cousin.
mine.
It is your second cousin's favorite football podcast.
Yeah.
We got a good show for you guys today. Got quite a bit of news actually this week. We had a certain player signing with a team that I'm very high on this year. And then we're going to get into my top 5 wide receivers going into the 2020 NFL season. Also had a couple of tight ends signing contracts. And speaking of tight ends, Joe, how's it going? How's it going?
You know
today?
me. Wow.
Yeah.
Really well.
Yeah?
Super good.
We were just, before the show started, we were talking about, I asked you if you had any beef with anybody because, you know, I figured the best way to spread the podcast is to start beef with somebody. And you had a specific person that you had beef with.
Yeah.
You want to explain to me who that is?
So his name is Lance. 210?
Lance? 210? That sounds legit. Lance 210. He was big on Vine, too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was
Lance
pretty
210.
big on Vine. He was never funny.
He was never once has he been funny necessarily,
Lance
but he's been
210.
big.
Lance Stewart, his name.
Lance Stewart. All right,
Man, that guy
what's your beef
sucks.
with Lance Stewart? I'd love to hear this.
He sucks.
He sucks.
No, yeah, there are some people that
Okay, why don't you just give some people some background on who Lance Stewart is?
Lance Stewart, if you've ever seen a video on Facebook Watch or anything, and it's like,
It's Lance Stewart.
funniest prank ever, pranked my grandma, my girlfriend, my mom, whatever, and you watch it and it's just the most fake prank you've ever seen in your whole entire life.
He is the one with the sweary grandma, right? His grandma's
his
always
grandma
swearing at
yells
him.
and swears at him all the time,
Yeah.
which is also scripted. I don't know how she's such a good actor.
Yeah, she's good. She's probably the best part. I mean, other than swearing and vulgarity, which we don't do on this podcast.
No,
This
sir.
podcast is family friendly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Lance 210. I agree with you as far as this goes. Let's call him out. You know, what do you have to say? Like,
So Lance 210,
yeah, I don't, like specifically.
make better videos.
Or don't make them at all.
Make unboxing videos instead.
Make iPhone reviews,
Yeah.
or something like that.
We need more people doing that.
I need more people like that kid reviewing toys.
What?
Yeah, the most successful
Is it Evan
YouTube
Tube?
channel. Evans
Is it Evan
Toy
Tube?
Review. Is it Evans Toy Review? Something like that. No, not Evans. It's something else. I think we're thinking of two different things.
I was thinking of EvanTube, which is a video a YouTuber that my little brother always watched.
Oh.
He played Minecraft. He did some
No.
unboxing videos.
This is not a Minecraft. This is like a very young kid. Like, I'm talking
Oh.
7 probably.
Oh, no, this guy's
and his
a bit
parents
older
are
now.
exploiting him because he reviews toys.
Wow.
What is it called? What is that toy channel called? Just look up a toy review YouTube channel. I mean, how many toy review? Ryan's Toy Review. I think he has a TV show now too.
What?
Yeah, and he's older now. So, oh no, he's 9. So not that old really.
Okay.
So he's probably been doing this since he was like 7 or probably younger. If you Google
Wow.
toy review, one of the things that says people also ask, who is the richest 7-year-old? How much does Ryan Toy Review make in a year? Ryan Toy
And
Review.
you know for a fact he makes none of that money.
Oh, absolutely not. He gets none of that.
That pays his
and
parents'
all he
mortgage.
gets is to do all the work, and his parents reap all the rewards.
Well, I'm
He
sure
makes-
his parents buy him like really nice toys. Which
Oh,
is probably
I'm
one thing
sure
he
they do.
Gives a care about, but
Imagine being those parents, though. It's like, I don't have to work because I'm exploiting my 9-year-old.
oh my goodness,
That's kind of messed up. Not
that's
gonna
like
lie.
the Yodel kids' parents.
Yeah, the Yodel kids. Did they exploit him? Yeah, the Yodel kid. That's a sad story.
Sorry, David Ramsey.
Mason Ramsey. Put some
Ramsey.
respect on his name.
Mason Ramsey.
Mason Ramsey. Mason Ramsey.
Gordon Ramsay.
As
Wait,
someone who dabbles in country music, I like country. I don't sing it. It's country music. I just listen to it. Mason Ramsey. That kid genuinely has talent, and he really cares about country music. And what they did to him was a travesty.
yes, I agree.
The music that they made this kid make is just terrible. It sucks. It's all not good, and it's all about like, why do they gotta make him sing songs about like love and like,
I know.
if I want to be
so
famous
young.
for something, I want to be famous for love. Like, come on. He's like, what? He's like 9, something like that.
No, he's not 9. He's
Okay,
older.
he's just a small guy, but
He is small.
he's not old. So like, why do you got to make him? Same thing happened, but Justin Bieber was even older, so that's not even a good. I don't know. It's just like let him just sing more George Strait songs.
13.
13.
Yeah.
Now he's only 13.
Maybe his voice is gonna start changing.
Gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
man.
Yeah, there's a lot of people we need to call out. So on this, let me make a list here. We're calling
A
out
hit list.
Lance Stewart.
Yeah.
We're gonna call out Ryan's toy reviews. The parents. Unless you want to call out the kid, I mean,
No,
who knows? He's probably a diva.
He's innocent.
He's and I hope so. We're also gonna call out anybody that had anything to do with Famous by Mason Ramsey.
Yes.
And then we're gonna go from there, I guess.
Can you imagine a kid getting canceled for doing something that a kid would do?
But we're not far from it.
It would happen. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, it would happen. Absolutely. Well, they had that kid. I was talking about this week at work. They had that kid not that long ago who.
Oh, the kid that had autism and who was being bullied like crazy.
Was he autistic?
Yeah,
I
think he had autism and something else that was on the video that I watched anyways.
Yeah.
But
And he was getting bullied, and he was crying in the video, getting bullied.
those videos were terrible.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Terrible.
just so sad to watch. And everybody's like, "Yeah, I support him," and then all of a sudden somebody's like, "Oh, his mom has a Confederate flag in her Facebook," and they canceled the kid.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they canceled the kid, and then they're like, "Oh, since his mom, I don't know if it ever came out that he was saying racist things to other kids, and that's why he was being bullied. But I think people were just right away inferring that he's a racist, and he was just saying racist things to kids, and that's why he was being bullied.
Oh dear.
But
He's
it's
only a child.
He's a kid.
He's a child.
He's a child.
Oh dear.
It's insane. The cancel culture. It's only a matter of, if we do this podcast for long enough and we start to get, some sort of a following, it's only a matter of time before we're canceled.
We will.
Oh, absolutely. Some of the things I've already said in the first few
Yes.
episodes, I think are good enough to get canceled. Like a few episodes ago, I said I was a big fan of Cuba Gooding Jr., I think.
Yes.
And he's a rapist now.
Oops.
Whoops. I promise I did not say that because I forgot. I didn't.
Fan of his...
It only clicked in like a week later. I was like, wait a second. I think Cuba Gooding Jr. is a rapist. And I looked it up and he was. I'm a fan of his acting. I was.
Yes.
Not anymore. Don't cancel me before I've even started, please. Don't cancel me. I'm a fan of his acting, not a fan of his extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
Which
Speaking
include-
of canceling, Dominic Fike, who I talked about on the last, he in his new album, he actually put out a song called "Cancel Me."
Ooh.
Yeah. He says, "I hope they euthanize me. I hope they crucify me," and stuff like that. And he says, "I hope I get me too'd in the song."
Whoa.
Yeah. Bold of him to say that.
That is bold. I hope I get me too.
Yeah.
Has he
No.
sexually assaulted somebody?
He did go to jail once, but I don't know.
Really?
I don't know what that was for.
That's who hasn't been to jail, you know.
That's true.
I should probably exit this tab because right now I just have Ryan's toy reviews up on my computer. That's gonna be
That's the only thing you're gonna be thinking.
It's gonna be a weird thing for me to explain to my wife later when she opens my laptop. But yeah,
that's hilarious.
I guess we've had a little bit of banter going. Maybe we should, hop into some football stuff eventually. In this podcast. Why don't we just jump straight into the news? First up in the news, we have Everson Griffin signing a 1-year, $6 million deal with the Dallas Cowboys. Everson Griffin has been rumored to potentially be signing with a couple teams, the Seahawks, maybe going back to the Minnesota Vikings for a while. And now he's actually finally decided to go and sign a 1-year deal with the Dallas Cowboys, a team that I am pretty high on this upcoming year. If you follow me on my Instagram, I'm doing my power rankings. Eventually, they'll come in and you'll see I might be a little bit too high on the Dallas Cowboys, but I think they have a good team. And I think Everson Griffin could add to a really, really talented team. If there was any big weakness or any big weaknesses on this Dallas Cowboys team, you could say their secondary is not very good. But you could also say that their defensive line maybe is not all that good. But especially on the edge rusher position, you have DeMarcus Lawrence, and then really you're counting on some other guys that can't stay on the field to come in and produce, including Aldon Smith, who hasn't played in a half decade. But now you bring in Everson Griffin, a guy who's had 74.5 sacks in 10 seasons with Minnesota. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler, including last year. I think it's a good addition, and it makes the team better. Makes the team better defensively. They have a lot of pieces on defense. They have Everson Griffin now, obviously, and they have DeMarcus Lawrence. I love their linebackers. I think they could be a solid defensive team. The secondary, to me, is still a weakness. It would have been great if they would have brought in Jamal Adams to help secure that. But I think this only makes the Dallas Cowboys more dangerous this upcoming season. Coming up next in the news, we have kind of a funny news story. And there's an undrafted cornerback. His name is Kemah Siverand. Kemah Siverand. He was cut this week by the Seattle Seahawks, and he was cut because he was caught trying to sneak a woman into the team hotel at their training camp. So he was trying to sneak a girl, evidently to do, what you do with a girl in a hotel room. And the funniest part about this news story is that he dressed this girl. He dressed this girl up in Seahawks gear in order to disguise her as a player to try to get him into the hotel room. He was caught on video too, so I really wish the video would be leaked because that is hilarious. How? Like, did he put her in shoulder pads? I don't understand. Like,
all the pads, a helmet on.
Like, how on earth did he think he would get away with that? Dressing a girl, like, I don't know. Maybe she was a very masculine woman. Mm-hmm. Which, if he's into that sort of thing, that's great for him. Well, okay, maybe not great because now he's cut and his career is potentially over in the NFL.
He got cut because he snuck a girl.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because of the bubble thing?
Well, yeah. For one, that's not a thing. If you're at training camp, you're not allowed to sneak girls into your thing. This happened a couple years ago too, before COVID, with the Los Angeles Rams. There was another player who tried to sneak a girl in. He got cut, and that was on Hard Knocks. That was on on TV. But now, and it's bottom of the roster, guys. Like if a guy like Patrick Mahomes is sneaking a girl in,
you're not gonna cut him.
It's gonna be like covering my eyes. Like they're not gonna cut Patrick Mahomes or trade Patrick Mahomes. But
imagine having that type of power. Holy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Quarterbacks and guys like that have a lot more power than a guy who's an undrafted cornerback out of Oklahoma State who hasn't done anything in the NFL, and he tries to sneak in a girl and tries to disguise her as a player. But they definitely tried to make a statement with this. It's I like the move because it's like
no nonsense.
I mean, I shouldn't say I like it because it sucks when a guy's like potentially losing his job, and he hasn't made a whole lot of money yet. I think he's probably made $2,000 off football so far. So like, it's not like he just made a bunch of money and now he's done. He's an undrafted guy. So, but it's like also this is kind of like take the freaking bubble seriously. Like this is a real thing. Like COVID-19, it drives me nuts that athletes for some reason think that they're above everybody else and that they can just break the bubble. And like I really hope that teams take this serious because it just takes one guy. It takes one undrafted cornerback to sneak in a girl and she has COVID, infects the entire team and shuts down the whole league.
Yep.
And, it's kind of a selfish, for many reasons it's selfish. So I mean it's just overall a stupid move. I mean how unbelievably horny do you have to be to risk your whole career? Sorry, that's a little bit inappropriate there, but I just don't understand. Can't you just wait? Training camp is only like a month long, and then you can kind of go home and do your own thing. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know. Athletes think they're above. Like these are guys who their whole lives have been told, you're the best, you're the greatest, you can do whatever you want, you're amazing. And then even an undrafted guy, like he's probably the best player his hometown has ever seen, best player his high school's ever seen. He goes to college. He's an amazing player in college. He's still undrafted, but he's been the best everywhere he's gone up until the NFL. And he thinks I can just do whatever the heck I want. But that doesn't work like that all the time. Up next in the news, we have the Buffalo Bills making a couple of contract extensions. They gave their head coach, Sean McDermott, a 4-year extension through 2025. Sean McDermott, through 3 seasons in Buffalo, has a 25-23 record, which is really not all that impressive if you look at it from that sense. But he's also brought the team to the playoffs twice in 3 seasons, which in Buffalo is unheard of. I mean, this team hadn't even made the playoffs in the 2000s until Sean McDermott showed up, and he's completely turned that team around. They were really a lost franchise under their previous coaches, guys like Rex Ryan and people like that. They were lost at sea, and Sean McDermott has kind of come and turned them around, and now they're kind of a favorite to win the AFC East and go back to the playoffs this upcoming season. So I've made it clear many times on the podcast, I love Sean McDermott. I think he's a fantastic coach. I don't like his quarterback. I don't like Josh Allen. I don't think he's a very good player, but I like Sean McDermott, and as long as he's in charge in Buffalo, I think the Bills have a chance to be a good team in spite of maybe a lack of talent at the quarterback position. And then the Bills also signed their left tackle, Dion Dawkins, through 2024 with a 4-year, $60 million extension. So he's going to average $15 million per year. He's a solid left tackle. The Bills also are a team that had struggles at the offensive line for a very long time. That's something that they've worked really hard to improve. And Dion Dawkins, he's the 25th ranked tackle by PFF, which is not amazing, but it's certainly not terrible. I mean, you have obviously 64 starting tackles in the NFL. You have one on each side of the line. So 25th is certainly not bad. It's basically around average. And if you can have even an average or a slightly above average tackle, that's better than a lot of teams have. So definitely not a bad sign. A couple signings for the Buffalo Bills to improve and potentially win the AFC East. And I'd like them to win the AFC East this year. I think they're gonna be the team to come out of that division. It's a very, very bad division. I mean, the division talent-wise is not all that great. Up next, we have a couple of tight ends signing contract extensions. First up, we had 49ers tight end George Kittle, who came in at number 1 on my top 5 tight ends list just a couple of weeks ago. He signed a 5-year, $75 million extension. And I don't want to say that me putting him at number 1 on my tight ends list, is a direct result or is directly, correlated with him signing a $75 million extension. But it certainly didn't hurt. I guarantee you John Lynch looked at the average Joe top 5 tight ends list and was like, oh, George Kittle's number 1. We got to lock this guy up fast. Yeah. And they certainly did it. He's now the highest paid tight end in the NFL. So you're welcome, George. You're welcome for that. Probably the most successful George in the NFL. There's not a whole lot of them. I can think off the top of my head, George Iloka. That's the other George I can think of. I can't think of a whole lot of Georges, but I talked about George Kittle a couple of weeks ago. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I think tight ends like him are incredibly underpaid. He's still not paid anywhere near any of the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL, which is crazy. I mean, there's guys like Jarvis Landry for the Cleveland Browns that are getting paid more than George Kittle. And Jarvis Landry's a fantastic player, but he has nowhere near the impact that a guy like George Kittle has, who is just a fantastic receiver. He's like a top tier receiver mixed in with basically a left tackle, having a second tackle on your team. He's a tremendous blocker, one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL, and also probably the best receiving tight end in the NFL. And then we had the Kansas City Chiefs trying to right away one up the 49ers, the 2 Super Bowl teams with fantastic tight ends. Travis Kelce, the tight end for Kansas City, actually signed a 4-year contract extension through 2025. It's worth upwards of $14 million a year, so it's not quite as high as a guy like George Kittle, but Travis Kelce, you can argue that he has been, other than Gronk, he's been the best tight end over the last decade, really. I mean, the guy, he's a 2-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, a Super Bowl champion in 7 seasons. I mean, his numbers, you can really compare them to a guy like Gronk. I mean, reception, receiving yards, touchdowns, it's very comparable. You could argue that he, as a receiver, has been a better player than Gronk the past couple seasons when they were in the NFL at the same time. Obviously, Gronk probably brings more as a blocker, but Travis Kelce, to me, he was number 2 on my top 5 tight ends, and he's a guy who, he'll take less money than George Kittle, but he's also very determined to build a dynasty there in Kansas City. I think that's what a lot of guys there in Kansas City are determined to do. It seems like they want to run it back. They want to win Super Bowls. They're focused on winning Super Bowls. So you're seeing more team-friendly deals, even though it seems like Kansas City is spending huge money on free agents. We saw them sign Patrick Mahomes to that massive extension, and they signed Chris Jones, and now they signed Travis Kelce. But if you really dig into these deals, a lot of them are pretty team-friendly deals, and it's players who, they could be getting more money elsewhere, but I think they're going to want to take less money and have a chance of playing with probably the best quarterback in football and playing on the best team in football and winning Super Bowls. And that's another thing I talked about a couple of weeks ago is Kansas City is a team that I think a lot of players coming up, the free agent class this upcoming year has a lot of phenomenal talent. I think you're going to see players, free agents, take less money to play in Kansas City if they have a chance to win a Super Bowl. So that's why I think Kansas City, they're a team that could compete for a while. And I love the Travis Kelce signing. Anything you can do to lock up really, really good talent for multiple years, that's fine by me. Next up in the news, we have Andrew Marchand coming out, and he apparently reported during a mailbag at some point that ESPN actually approached Rams head coach Sean McVay about leaving his coaching to be an analyst on Monday Night Football. And this to me is laughable. I don't understand where ESPN gets this gets so cocky about things like this. They were so cocky that they would get Peyton Manning. They really, really thought they were going to get Tony Romo. They thought they were going to get a guy like Drew Brees and then Al Michaels. They tried over and over to try to get guys on Monday Night Football, but nobody cares about Monday Night Football anymore. Monday Night Football is not the big game of the week anymore. I don't know why they thought that a 34-year-old coach who's one of the better coaches in the NFL, he's going into his 4th season as an NFL coach. I don't know why they would have possibly thought that he would come out of coaching to be an analyst for ESPN on Monday Night Football. Sunday Night Football is the big game of the week. Monday Night Football is not as big as it used to be. ESPN eventually settled on Steve Levy, Louis Riddick, and Brian Greasy to be their commentating team on ESPN for Monday Night Football. So, they've whiffed on so many guys. Hopefully this broadcast team is good because I still enjoy Monday Night Football. I enjoy football. So it's just kind of funny that they thought that they could bring the Rams head coach who's 34 years old. He's not an old guy. They thought they could bring him out of coaching and put him in the booth and he would be okay. Like, I don't know what their thought process was on that. And that kind of wraps up the news. And since there's a lot of talk about contract extensions and people signing new contracts and people getting paid, I decided to have another edition of everybody's favorite segment on the podcast. You guys know what it is. Say it with me. What does Joe know? So in this week's edition of everybody's favorite game show, we are going to go through the highest paid NFL players. This is by total value, how much their contract is worth, total value. So these are big names. These are not, I'm not going to go bottom of the roster. These are the big names. They're household names.
All right.
I have 5 guys.
Burgers and fries?
5 guys, burgers and fries. For those of you guys that don't know what this segment is, basically this is a game show where Joe has a chance to win. Producer Joe, who knows $500. We haven't agreed on that yet. Joe has a chance. Joe, who knows almost nothing about sports.
Every time you say that, it's just like a dagger.
Does it hurt you? It's okay to not know about
true,
sports.
And it's true, but
why does it matter?
It hurts me so hard.
You know a lot about a lot of things, just not sports.
All right.
He doesn't know. I mean, he's learning for sure. So I feel like you're picking up on things, and I have confidence in you this week.
All right.
But basically, I quiz him on very basic football things, and the only rules are for this show is that the question is one that I would have to be able to answer without a doubt. I could answer no problem, like very quickly.
And also, every time you say that, it's like, wow, look at me.
No, well,
it's so easily.
It's not. Some people know. I know probably too much about sports, and that's fine. So basically, I'm going to list off the top 5. So this is 5. I usually, we've gone with 9, 8s. I've narrowed it down a little bit. The top 5 highest paid players in the NFL. This is by total contract value. So this is how much, if they play out their contract, how much they're going to make. I really have confidence in you this week. I think you're going to pull this off.
Oh,
so I have 5 guys.
I already know.
You have to. I'm going to name off 5 guys. One of them is not a football player.
And I'm going to pick him.
One of them is a player from a different sport who is incredibly paid a lot of money. So I'm going to list off the top 5 guys, and you have to tell me which one of them is not a football player. And I think this one's easy because you're going to know some of these names.
Oh, I just have to tell you which one's not a football player.
Yeah, so I'm going to list off.
Okay,
here we
I thought I have to tell you which one's the most highest paid. I'm like, if you say Pat Mahomes, I already know that because you talked about that already.
Okay, well,
I had this in the bag
there's
already.
number 1, Pat Mahomes. All right. Number 2, Matt Ryan. Number 3, Khalil Mack. Number 4, Bryce Harper. And number 5, Jimmy Garoppolo. Joe, I'll give you a little bit of time to think. I think sometimes you jump the gun a little bit too much and you're too confident. So just think. I'll quickly read them
Pointing
again.
out all my insecurities
Patrick Mahomes, you know that's a football player.
Yes.
So you don't even worry about that one.
Yep.
Matt Ryan, Khalil Mack, Bryce Harper, and Jimmy Garoppolo. One of those names, Matt Ryan, Khalil Mack, Bryce Harper, and Jimmy Garoppolo, is not a football player. And you're already struggling with this more than I thought you would. It's just crazy because I know way too much about sports, so I just assume that people are just going to know. Like this person, the person that's not a football player here is big time in their sport. Like
I think I know.
They're big time. Okay.
Say the names one more time.
Okay, one more time.
Yes.
We're going to just not even... Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
Not worried about him. Matt Ryan at 2.
Okay.
Khalil Mack at 3. Bryce Harper at 4. And Jimmy Garoppolo at 5. I thought you would just nail this one out of the park. This is to be the winner of the podcast.
I have
Joe.
2 and it's a 50-50.
You're 0 for 2 right now. I'm gonna start keeping a tally. You're 0 for 2 at this point.
I have my answer.
You have your answer. You're gonna lock it in.
I'm gonna lock it in.
You're gonna lock it in. Here we go. Drum roll, please.
Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Woo. Yes.
That's what I'm
Let's have some
talking about.
celebratory music here. Yes.
Yeah.
You did it. What sport does Bryce
it.
Harper play?
Basketball.
Wrong.
Oh. No, he's a baseball player.
Baseball player.
I knew that. Yeah.
Dude, very good.
Oh man.
Was that your answer from the beginning? Were you pretty yeah?
Khalil Mack, I was like, wait, is Khalil Mack a basketball player?
No.
I thought Bryce Harper. Oh, I was thinking of Vince Carter, which is totally different.
Not even close.
Very different.
To Khalil
He doesn't
Mack.
even play anymore.
No, he's retired now.
Oh,
That's
so
great.
sad.
I was very worried. You're now 1 and 2 on What Does Joe Know?
Yes.
Yes.
Very happy about
Very
that.
first win. How are you feeling right now, Joe, after your first
Good.
win?
My heart is racing.
Heart is racing.
Yeah, I'm happy we did this.
His anxiety level has gone up substantially since we started doing this segment of the
Very
podcast.
much. I'm on edge.
Congratulations, Joe. You're officially the winner of this week's podcast. You get to do the rest of the podcast, so you get to do your top 5 wide receivers in the NFL.
Easy.
Yeah, easy. So
Number
I'm just
one,
gonna
Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh, number 2, Odell Beckham Jr.
Same answer.
Number 3, who cares? It's Odell, baby.
It's Odell, and that's it. He plays for the Bengals.
Oh, okay. We should really stop because you were the winner, and it's not really looking that good anymore.
I'm a loser.
You've already said that Bryce Harper is a basketball player,
no.
and that Odell Beckham plays for the Bengals. He plays for the Browns.
That's the same thing.
They're basically the same team.
I know.
Same colors. But yeah, that was another edition of What Does Joe Know? All right, we're continuing our top 5 positional rankings going into the 2020 NFL season. We've been over tight ends. We've been over linebackers. We've been over cornerbacks, safeties, running backs. I believe that's all of them. And now we're on the top 5 wide receivers. And we're coming in close to the end of this series. Like I said, I didn't realize how incredibly close we are to the start of the NFL season. So I'm going to have to hurry up with this. Next week, we are going to go with 2 at once. We're going to do the top 5 edge rushers and top 5 interior defensive linemen. And then we're going to go right to the one that everybody's waiting for, including myself, my top 5 quarterbacks headed into the 2020 NFL season the week after that. And then we'll be just right up close to the start of the 2020 NFL season. I'm not going to do my top 5 offensive linemen because I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know enough about what it takes to play offensive line to give you top 5 offensive linemen. If you want me to go onto NFL.com and copy and paste what they have as their top 5 offensive linemen, I'm not going to do that. But, if you want me to do it, I'm still not going to do it. I'm also not going to do my top 5 kickers and punters. I don't think.
Punters are people
Punters
too.
are people too. They are, but it's just... Maybe I'll do like a little segment at some point, but I feel like a whole episode for kickers and punters just seems like a little much. It's like, how do I even... It's another thing where it's like, I don't feel qualified to tell you who the top 5 punters are in the NFL. Just go by net punt yards or where they're, like, if they punted inside the 20. I don't think I'm going to do... Joe, why don't you give me your top 5? On today's episode, when I do my top 5 wide receivers, you give me your top 5 kickers.
Yeah.
You want to do kickers / punters, or
not just kickers?
Just kickers, not punters.
No,
so punters aren't people then.
Yeah, they are, but not as good as kickers.
Not as good as kickers. What is the difference between a punter and a kicker? Oh no, I feel bad. I've kind of like just kicking you all the time in this podcast.
Punters are people that kick the ball when their team's going to return it. Yeah. And the kicker is someone who does it to score.
Oh, yeah, that's... Yeah, essentially.
Is that actually it?
That's pretty good. Yeah, punters are basically you just give the ball to the other team, and then kickers are you're actually scoring and you do kickoffs and stuff. But some teams have their punters do kickoffs, so it's like I just can't believe that there are not more teams that don't have there are not more teams that don't have a guy that plays both kicker and punter. Like, they're very different things. Apparently, kickers can't be punters and punters can't be kickers. But you think you could find one dude to just do it both, and then you have one less roster spot you got to worry about. Like, how hard? Like, just find like a really good soccer player, and then he could just do. But I can't believe that that's not a thing. Seems like you could get one guy to do both. And if like the kicker gets injured, the punter is the guy that's going to replace him right away. So it's like, well, I don't know. This is why I'm not a football coach. Apparently, this is why I have a podcast. But anyways, why don't we jump into my top 5 wide receivers for the 2020 NFL season? Coming in at number 5 on my top 5 wide receivers list, and it is Mike Evans, the wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Fun fact about Mike Evans, his middle name is Lynn. And I like it when people who could beat me up have girl middle names. So
Lynn?
Michael, I don't know if his full name is Michael, I'm assuming. Michael Lynn Evans.
Michael Lynn.
Very cute name. He's also 6'5" and 231 pounds. Just a monster of a human being.
Wow.
His 2019 stats in 13 games. He had 67 receptions for 1,157 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 17.9 yards per reception, which is phenomenal. It's 4th best in the NFL among receivers with 50-plus receptions, and it's by far the best number on this list. So he's really a downfield threat. The guy... Fun fact, another one about Mike Evans, he has 1,000 yards receiving in all 6 of his seasons in the NFL. That's 6 straight seasons to start his career. And only him and a little guy called Randy Moss, Hall of Fame wide receiver, potentially one of the best, if not the best receiver of all time, can say that they've started off their first 6 seasons with 1,000 yards receiving every single year. And this is a guy who I think sometimes gets hidden in Tampa Bay because it's not a big market. It's not a team that people care about a whole lot. He hasn't had a ton of talent as far as the quarterback position goes, unless you want to count Jameis Winston, which I'm not going to. He's a guy who maybe gets forgotten about. It's not going to happen this year. Not with Tom Brady there in Tampa Bay. I think he's going to get some more recognition that he potentially deserves as one of the best wide receivers in football. I mean, he's just a guy who produces. He has the highest drop rate of anybody on this list, but that's because he's a guy who just makes contested catches. He makes catches down the field. Jameis Winston, the last few seasons, he's a guy who just takes shots, who throws prayers up to Mike Evans, and Mike Evans often answers those prayers. He averages 8 touchdowns per season, so he just scores. He's tremendous, like I said, at contested catches because he's 6'5", 231 pounds. How are you going to stop as a 6 foot, 180-pound corner? How are you going to stop a 6'5", 231 pound receiver when he goes up and grabs the ball? It's not easy to do. And to me, I think him and Brady could have a potentially special season this upcoming year if Tom Brady doesn't fall off a cliff. If Tom Brady can still be half of what he has been throughout his career. Because I think that Mike Evans is the closest thing that Tom Brady has had to Randy Moss during that 2007 season. I don't think Tom Brady hasn't had that much talent at the wide receiver position. I'm not saying that Mike Evans is Randy Moss, but I think he's the closest thing that Tom Brady's had. He's just a massive, dominant receiver, super fast, super athletic, and he's a guy who makes plays down the field. He has 13.4 yards before catch, which is fourth best in the NFL, and it's way further downfield than anybody else on this list. So any of the other top 5 guys are not making receptions as far down the field on average as a guy like Mike Evans is. So every time he makes a catch, he's further down the field than these other guys on this list. So he's just a deep threat. As a 6'5" guy, he can blow by guys. He's also incredibly strong and makes great contested catches. And without further ado, Joe, why don't we jump into your top 5 kickers here? Who comes in at number 5 on your top 5 kickers list? This is something that he researched literally as I'm talking about Mike Evans here.
No, I was prepared.
Oh, you were prepared?
Last week I already started.
Last week before he knew that this was happening, he was preparing.
Yeah. Coming in at number 5 on my 2020 NFL season kickers, Matt Gay.
Whoa.
Matthew Gay.
Matthew Gay. Matthew Gay.
If you want to be more politically correct.
So who does Matthew Gay play for?
Plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He made 31 field goals in 16 games and then last season.
Really?
And, with 35 attempts.
Wow, that's pretty good actually.
And and so
he's your number 5, eh?
He's my number 5. He made.
Did it have anything to do with his last name?
43 extra points made. So.
43 extra points. That's not bad.
And he's the kicker.
Fun fact, dude. Well, that's good. It's good to see a Tampa Bay kicker make it on the top 5 because they've had kicker woes for so many years, and finally they have a guy crack the average Joe top 5 kickers list.
And fun fact for Matt Gay is he is straight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's straight.
That's phenomenal. He even has a fun fact for him. That's great.
I have one for all of them. So.
Okay, that's great. He's straight. You have Mike Evans. That's great that I have a Tampa Bay receiver as my 5th best receiver, and you have a Tampa Bay kicker.
Well,
does he still play? To be honest with you, I don't know much about Matt Gay. Does he still plays for Tampa Bay this upcoming season? Okay. Well, you'd think after that phenomenal season he'd still play there, but why don't we move on to number 4? Coming in at number 4 on my top 5 wide receivers list for the 2020 NFL season is Tyreek Hill, the wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs. And fun fact about Tyreek Hill, he's left-handed. He throws left-handed. And this week it was, at some point, Thursday, I believe, it was National Left-Handers Day, something like that. And I'm left-handed as well. So I had to shout out all the left-handers on my Instagram story and shout out to Tyreek Hill for also being left-handed. In 4 years, Tyreek Hill is a 2-time All-Pro. He's obviously a Super Bowl champion last year. His 2018 stats, I included his 2018 stats because in 2019, he wasn't very healthy. He missed 4 games. He still had 860 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. But his 2018 stats are really phenomenal. He had 87 receptions for 1,479 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 17 yards per reception. This is a guy who a couple years back completely broke football. I mean, the guy, he's sort of had that Steph Curry effect where Steph Curry pretty well changed the game in the NBA, and just by shooting threes and just completely changing how we looked at basketball. It might not be to that extent where it's completely changed the game, but a couple years ago, people genuinely did not know how to stop Tyreek Hill because he was just, every field that he stepped on, he's the fastest guy on the field. He's probably the fastest guy in the NFL, and he's just so talented as a wide receiver and as an overall playmaker. He's probably the best deep threat in the NFL. He's very different than the other guys on this list. He's the only guy under 6 feet tall. He's 5'10", 185 pounds. So that's probably the same size as you, Joe. 5'10", 185. It's around like the same size. So he's a smaller guy, incredibly athletic. Like I said, one of the fastest guys. He had a down year last year. I expect his production to go up. He's the most talented receiver despite Travis Kelce being on that team and Travis Kelce taking up a ton of receptions and being a huge part of that team, to me, Tyreek Hill is the most talented receiver on that team. And when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes who can just throw the football a country mile, having a guy that can run a country mile very fast like Tyreek Hill can is definitely something that is going to benefit that Kansas City Chiefs team. And I think that's why Tyreek Hill comes in at number 4 on my top 5 wide receivers list. And Joe, who comes in at number 4 on your top 5 kickers list?
Coming in at number 4 on my top 5 kickers list, we got Zane Gonzalez for the Arizona Cardinals. 31 field goals made in 16 games. It was 35 attempts and 34 extra points made.
Very good.
Fun fact about Zane Gonzalez, he was actually the first Sun Devil in history to kick more than one 50-yarder in a game.
More than one.
Which is...
What does being a Sun Devil mean?
The Sun Devil is the team that represents Arizona State University.
Very good. I was just making sure.
So
it would just be funny out of context that he's a Sun Devil. Well, he's just the first Sun Devil in NFL history to kick.
Yeah, the Arizona State
more than one
Sun Devils.
The Sun Devils. Very good. So he was very good. There's a kicker I'm really hoping you have on those lists because I'm going to just really roast you if he's on your list. And so just be scared if all of a sudden you put this guy on your list.
Okay.
It's coming, okay?
All right.
Zane Gonzalez, number 4. What do you like about Zane Gonzalez overall?
I really just like, honestly, his dynamic on the field.
Everything about him, really.
And the way he can just kick the ball.
Kind of handles himself.
Yeah, the way he carries himself off the field when he's done kicking and everything. He's got a lot of good energy, and I just
he's sort of like he's like a Sun Devil.
Yeah, he is kind of, and I just really think that like whatever he's going to bring to the 2020 NFL season, it's just going to make a change in the Arizona Cardinals this year.
Oh man, that's exciting! Arizona's a fun team this upcoming season.
Yeah,
so
I know.
I think Zane could definitely add a little zany factor to that. If you know what I'm saying.
I also believe so.
Coming in at number 3 on my top 5 wide receivers list and on Joe's top 5 kickers list, we have DeAndre Hopkins. We just talked about Zane Gonzalez of the Arizona Cardinals. DeAndre Hopkins of the Arizona Cardinals. He was recently traded, obviously, during the offseason. Got the Bill O'Brien Texans got completely fleeced for DeAndre Hopkins. My number 3 receiver. And fun fact about DeAndre Hopkins, his nickname is Nuke Hopkins, which I knew already. I knew his nickname was Nuke. I never knew why his nickname was Nuke. His nickname is Nuke because Nuke is the brand of pacifier, the only brand of pacifier that he would use as a baby. That's the only one that he would use, so he was very picky. I didn't know that. Not really well versed in brands of pacifiers, but I know that Nuke is the one that DeAndre Hopkins loved. And through 7 seasons, he's also really loved being a phenomenal wide receiver because he's a 3-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler. His stats last year, he had sort of a down year, which is crazy because it was still a phenomenal year. Had 104 receptions for 1,100 rather, and 65 yards, 7 touchdowns. He had 68 first downs receiving, which was 3rd best in the NFL. He's a guy who's had 5 1,000-yard seasons in 7 seasons. In the NFL, and he's had those 1,000-yard seasons in 5 seasons. He's had that with quarterbacks like Matt Schaub, Brock Osweiler, Tom Savage, Brandon Weeden, T.J. Yates. I mean, he's a guy who just has not had incredible wide receiver or quarterback talent rather around him. Obviously, the last 2 years he had Deshaun Watson, who's amazing, but he's just consistently dominant year in and year out. He's another guy who just has incredible hands. Probably the best hands in the NFL. You could argue that his hands are like nobody else. He's got massive hands. He cuts his gloves, I believe, so he can actually spread his hands out more to catch more balls. And he's a guy who you can basically throw the ball up and he's going to come down with it. I was watching his segment on the top 100 players list, which the NFL puts out every year. For the most part, it's a ridiculous series, and I'm not really a huge fan, but I was watching that, and you saw cornerbacks just rave about how DeAndre Hopkins, it seems like he's covered, but he's still going to come down with it. He's a guy where, he's playing with a really good quarterback now with Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray can use Nuke Hopkins as a potential safety blanket. A guy, you just throw it up, he's going to come down with it. He's like I said, he's just one of the best in the NFL. at contested catches, and now he's got Larry Fitzgerald to potentially mentor him there in Arizona. So that's why he's the number 3 receiver for me going into the 2020 NFL season. And Joe, who's your number 3 kicker going to the 2020 NFL season?
Coming in at number 3, we have Justin Tucker for the Baltimore
Whoa!
Ravens.
Justin Tucker. Only 3.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, well, he could have made it higher, but that's just...
You think he's declining or what?
No, I think he's getting better, actually.
Oh, really? Because
his field goal percentage is actually the best on this list.
It's really?
This year. It's at 96.6%. 29 attempts, 28 field goals made.
So only missed one, and he's still games. Only number 3.
Yeah, well,
See, and if I was doing a list, I would have had Justin Tucker at all 5 slots. So, because to me, Justin Tucker is the best kicker ever.
Yeah, and you know what? And that might be, you might be right, but I disagree. Fun fact about Justin Tucker, actually, he is the most accurate NFL kicker in the league history. He's also the highest paid.
Really?
Yeah, he is the highest paid kicker in league history. So.
He's also an opera singer. Fun fact about him.
No.
Yeah, he sings opera. So.
Why do you have a fun fact about someone that I know better than you?
I'm smarter than you.
Who did he play for in college?
Who did Justin Tucker play for in college? I don't know. Texas? Was it Texas?
Yeah.
No, it was not Texas.
I have no idea.
I don't think it was Texas. Justin Tucker. I don't know. Sorry. I feel like I should know. I bet you I can find it in like 2 seconds though, and you're squirming over there to find it.
No, I'm not doing anything. My hands are both here.
My hands are up. Justin Tucker, he played for Texas. I was right.
That's what I said.
How the heck did I know that he played?
I was tricking you.
This is insane. Yeah, so I don't want to say that I'm better at kickers than you, but I just might be better at kickers than you.
Well, I'll wait till you see my next top 2.
Very good. Let's move into the top 2 here. Coming in at number 2, and I'm starting to realize that people are probably only interested now in the top 5 kickers list. They probably don't really care about the wide receivers list at this point, because you're making my job look incredibly easy because you're coming through with these stats so fast. And I actually spent time prepping for my top 5 receivers.
And your job is so easy.
It is very easy.
I'm doing it.
You're doing it very, very well, actually.
2.5 minutes here. So.
Yeah, well, my number 2, Michael Thomas, wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. And this is where the controversy starts, because I bet you a lot of people think, oh, Michael Thomas probably going to be number 1. Not for me. Fun fact about Michael Thomas, his social media handles are at Can't Guard Mike. So he basically just tells you right there what you can't do to him, and that's guard him. And another fun fact, he's also kind of a baby on social media all the time. If you talk any crap about him, not even really talking crap like Devontae Parker did not all that long ago, just kind of complimenting Stephon Gilmore. And then Michael Thomas cried for a whole day about it, apparently. So he's very sensitive. But as a receiver, he is tremendous. I'm not going to let his off-the-field antics take away from how good of a receiver he is. Through 4 seasons, he's a 2-time All-Pro. He was also the Offensive Player of the Year last year. I mean, he's tremendous. His numbers this last year were just ridiculous. I mean, just through the roof. I mean, his numbers comparing to any other receiver, you can't really do it because his numbers were phenomenal. He's a perfect fit in that offense with Drew Brees and with Sean Payton. He had 149 receptions, which is an NFL record. For receptions in a season. He also had 1,725 yards, which is number 1, not even all that close. 9 touchdowns, which is 3rd best in the league. He had This is what makes him special. I think he had 91 first downs receiving, so 91 times he moved the chains as his receiver, which is 14 first downs better than the next closest guy, which is phenomenal. And the biggest thing with Michael Thomas that makes him great is yards after catch. He had 583 yards after catch, which is number 1 among wide receivers. He's a guy who runs short routes. The biggest knock on him is all he does is run slants. And obviously that's not totally true, but him running short routes, it's not completely a lie. He runs a lot of short routes. I like to call him basically Jarvis Landry on mega steroids, because he just runs these slants. He runs quick ins, quick outs. He runs drags. He's just so good off the line. He gets open so fast. And And that's what makes him so great. If all he does is run slants, all he does is run short routes, why the heck can defensive backs not stop him? It's because he's so good at coming off the line. His hands are tremendous. I mean, his catch percentage is in 2019 was 80.5%. So 80.5% chance if you throw a ball his way, he's going to catch it, which is not even close. I mean, he's just way better than the other receivers on this list, way better than the other receivers in the NFL in general. And then if you go back to 2018, it's 85%. I mean, the guy is just going to catch the ball, and the Saints target him 33% of the time during the season, the Saints offense. So if they drop back to pass, 1/3 of the time they were throwing at Michael Thomas, which is just outrageous. To me, there's no chance in the world that he's going to be able to duplicate these stats year in and year out, because they're just ridiculous. I mean, they have now Emmanuel Sanders, who came in there to be sort of a help on that offense, so that could take away from his numbers, but he was basically the guy as the wide receiver there in New Orleans. And to me, the only thing that kind of holds him back is he's a slot receiver. He's the best slot receiver in the NFL, but he's a slot receiver. He's a short routes guy. I think he's really good at that. But to me, the number one guy on this list, I think he does what Michael Thomas does, and he does it probably better, and he does other things. But not taking away from Michael Thomas, tremendous player, and he's number 2 on my list. Michael Thomas, don't be mad at me. Sorry that you're number 2, but you're just number 2. And Joe, who's your number 2 kicker? I still can't believe Justin Tucker came in at number 3. This is a very controversial list. But who's your number 2?
They call me Mr. Controversy.
Mr. Controversy. Very good. That's your album. Your next album.
Coming in at number 2 on my top 5 kickers of the 2020 NFL season, Will Lutz.
Will Lutz.
Yeah, for the New Orleans.
I like the correlation again, because I just did a New Orleans Saints receiver, and you got a New Orleans Saints kicker.
Yeah, for the New Orleans Saints.
Just moved on.
Yeah, you're interrupting me always. But 16 games, he made 32 out of 36 field goals with an 88.9% field goal. 88.9 field goal percentage.
Very good.
48 extra points made. And fun fact about Will Lutz is that he actually set the Saints rookie franchise record for 28 field goals made in 1 year. I don't know what year it was.
He's losing confidence.
He did do that
very
once.
fast. Probably during his rookie season.
I think he's gonna bring a lot of good spirit for the Saints this year. He's really all around like a good morale booster. I've seen him play. I've seen him boost up the team's morale, and I just think he's gonna just do even better this year in the 2020 NFL season.
Very good. Coming in at number 1 on my top 5 wide receivers list for the 2020 NFL season. And if you know anything about football, you probably know who number 1 is at this point. And to me, it's Julio Jones, the wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons. He's 31 years old coming into the season, so he's a little bit of an older guy, the oldest guy on this list. Fun fact about Julio Jones, not only is Julio Jones a really cool name, but his full name is actually Quintorris Lopez Jones. Wow. Very cool. I don't know how they got Julio out of that, but I don't want to say anything ignorant, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. But, I mean, Julio Jones, to me, is the best receiver in the NFL. I know what Michael Thomas did numbers-wise is better than Julio Jones last year, and Michael Thomas has been tremendous the last few seasons. But Julio Jones, to me, he's the most dominant receiver I've ever watched. Other than Megatron, maybe. You could argue that Megatron, Calvin Johnson, was maybe more dominant, but he's not in the NFL anymore. And to me, Julio Jones is the next best thing. I'm younger, obviously. I didn't watch receivers like Jerry Rice. I got the tail end of Randy Moss's career. But to me, Julio Jones it is the guy as far as receiver goes. He's 6'3", 220 pounds. He runs a 4.3 40-yard dash, which is just unreal. His 2019 stats, he had 15 games played. He had 99 receptions, which was 6th best in the league. So with 6th best in the league receptions, he also had 1,394 yards, which was 2nd best in the NFL. So he only had the 6th best receptions wise, but he was the 2nd best as far as receiving yards goes. He had 6 touchdowns, and the biggest knock probably on Julio Jones is his touchdowns. He doesn't score as many touchdowns maybe as you would like for him to score, but I think a lot of the times there's been a lot of talent on those Atlanta Falcons teams, and you've had guys like Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman, who were really good a few years ago. But to me, Julio Jones, I mean, if you go on Pro Football Reference and you look at some of his statistics through the years, I mean, his best ever season, he had 1,871 yards receiving on 136 receptions. I mean, he's completely dominant. I've never seen a receiver be able to completely take over the game the way Julio Jones does. I mean, in an NFL where you can just double team a guy, you can bring a safety over, you can try to eliminate a guy completely out of the offense. It's crazy to see Julio Jones take over a game. I mean, there is that game in 2016, I believe, against the Panthers. He had 300 yards receiving, which is just outrageous. That means he covered the football field 3 times receiving the ball, which is insane. How do you not even begin to stop him? I think he got a cornerback fired that week because I think he got cut. I think it was Ben Wickery, maybe. I think he got cut after getting completely destroyed by Julio Jones. I mean, and Julio makes some of the greatest catches you'll ever see. I remember his catch in the Super Bowl against the Patriots that should have clinched that game. I mean, just a ridiculous toe-tapping, full extension, crazy catch by Julio Jones. Should have closed that game out. It didn't do it. He's dominant. Like I said, he's the most dominant receiver I've ever witnessed. And if you ever want entertainment, go on and watch his top 100 video from this past season and see Larry Fitzgerald, who's my favorite receiver all time, talk about Julio Jones. And basically him and Kyler Murray talking, and Larry Fitzgerald is just saying how amazing Julio Jones is and that he's the best receiver he's ever seen. And that's high praise coming from the future Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald. But Joe, without further ado, why don't we just go to what everybody's waiting for? Your number 1 kicker in the NFL. And if it's who I think it is, I'm going to lose my mind.
Coming in at number 1.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
My number 1 kicker for the 2020 NFL season. We have Justin Tucker.
What?
Yeah, looking at his numbers, he really played overall the best ball game last year for the Baltimore Ravens.
He was number
here.
3.
He in 16 games, he made 28 out of 29 field goals with 96.6 field goal percentage. Really, this guy he's kicking butt out there. He's gonna kick butt again this year.
Kick butt and balls.
Yes, and really, he really brings the team together here with the kicking. And a fun fact about Justin Tucker is he actually, I know you were like, oh, he's an opera singer. He can actually sing in 7 different languages: English, Spanish, French, Italian, German, Latin, and Russian.
Wow.
And he also majored in recording technology at Texas. And that's the thing I wish I would have done.
Wow.
So
you want to be Justin Tucker.
I do, but yeah. I think that he's going to bring a lot of good energy to the team this year. I love the Baltimore Ravens. I love what they do. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm imagining when you said that Justin Tucker was your number 3 kicker, and then I said that he's no doubt the best. I feel like were you then scrambling?
No, absolutely not.
Your plan all along was to have him be number 1.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at the numbers. And, they make sense. And he makes sense. He's an overall really good player.
You want to change number 3 then, or are you just gonna keep?
No. He all around he should have been every 5 of them. So
5. So you just okay.
Yeah.
So you're kind of stealing my ideas now.
Really excited to see what Justin Tucker is going to bring into this 2020 NFL season.
Very good. That kind of wraps up today's show, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know I did. This was a fun show. Joe, you did a great job. Good job with your top 5 kickers.
Thank you very much.
Justin Tucker comes in at 2 positions on the top 5 list. Stay tuned for next week when I do my top 5 defensive linemen, both interior and exterior edge rushers. And then Joe's going to do his top 5 punters.
Top 5 punters.
I'm going to give you a week to prepare now.
Yep.
You better bring your A game.
Yeah, I already started.
You already started doing your top 5 favorite punters in the NFL. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in. If you're listening to the show on wherever you can rate and review, please leave us a rating, leave us a review. I don't know how many times I have to ask you guys this. Please leave us a rating, leave us a review. It means a lot. Make sure that you follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at _Average Joe Show, posting a lot of cool stuff on there. Make sure you do that. Maybe we'll get Joe posting some of his top 5 favorite kickers on there.
Absolutely.
Make sure you follow Joe, the producer, at
Joe_Thiessen.
Very good. THIESSEN. Joseph _Thiessen. Joseph?
Yeah. No.
Joe. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I just ruined it.
No, that's fine.
Follow him on Instagram, right? Do you have Twitter as well? Is it the same thing?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I caught him off guard again. He's mad at me. You guys could just see the face that he's making at me right now.
While I'm looking for this, shout out goes to 3 Peter Thiessen.
3 Peter Thiessen.
For being a real jerk.
Yeah, he's a real ass.
You're the worst.
You suck.
But
that's only one person's going to get that.
Yep. So if you're listening to this, thanks for nothing. You make me insecure about everything I do every single day of my life.
Joe's calling out his bully today.
Actually, on Twitter, it's Thiessen _Joe.
Oh,
it's exactly the opposite.
Well, you switched it up. Very good.
Just switched,
I like
exactly.
That. Joe, you have anything to say before we wrap up the show here?
Yeah, just tune in next week for my top 5 punters. I'm really excited to share with you guys what I've come up with and what I'll be planning. So yeah, I just can't wait.
Very good. Make sure you guys tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. NFL season, like we talked about, coming up shortly. Really excited. Hoping that we're going to have a somewhat normal football season. But thanks once again for the listen. And we will catch you guys on the next one.